The sky of Valeth Prime shimmered like liquid glass, fractured by the golden towers of the royal citadel. The human envoy ship broke through the upper atmosphere, its silver hull glowing against the planet's twin suns. Inside, Captain Adrian Holt adjusted his collar, a useless reflex in front of alien royalty. He had been briefed 1,000 times before landing. No sudden gestures. No physical contact. Never meet the Queen's eyes for more than 3 seconds. But that was before he saw her. The throne chamber opened like a cathedral carved from light. Thousands of translucent banners rippled overhead, each carrying bioluminescent sigils that changed color with the mood of the court. At the far end, seated upon a throne that seemed to hum with energy, was High Empress Sarilith, last of the Sapphire line. Her skin glowed faintly with an inner light, the color of a dying star. Eyes like molten gold watched him without blinking. She was beautiful, yes, but not human beautiful. There was a stillness in her, an ancient weight that made everyone else in the room look fragile. The moment Adrian stepped forward, the air seemed to thicken. Every alien noble in the chamber turned toward him in slow, synchronized motion, their expressions unreadable. He felt the translator implant in his neck sputter and glitch. Their voices came through distorted, mechanical, like whispers underwater. The court murmured. The humans had sent a broken translator to address the Empress of Valeth? It was an insult or a test. Sarilith lifted one slender hand. The chamber fell silent instantly. Her voice was low and melodic, carrying through the hall like a vibration more than sound. "Human envoy," she said, "you are far from your homeworld. Why have you come?" Adrian tried to respond, but the translator flickered again. His words came out as static, half-translated syllables. "I bring peace offering from Earth." Laughter rippled through the court, a cruel, elegant laughter that cut through his nerves. The nobles whispered to each other in their native tongue. He caught fragments, primitive, malfunction, amusing. Sarilith tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Your machine stumbles on my name," she murmured. "Perhaps you should speak without it." Adrian hesitated. Direct verbal communication was forbidden under diplomatic protocol, but silence would look like weakness. So he did the unthinkable. He removed the translator patch from his neck, the pain sharp and immediate, and faced her directly. The guards tensed. Several nobles hissed, the air crackling with warning pheromones. Sarilith, however, did not move. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly, and something like interest flickered across her perfect, cold face. Adrian spoke in plain English. His voice, rough and human, echoed through the alien hall. "My ship was ordered here to open talks. Not to beg, not to bow, but to understand your people, and offer cooperation." The silence that followed was absolute. Sarilith rose from her throne. The movement was slow, deliberate, mesmerizing. Her robes shimmered like molten crystal, revealing the faint outline of her body beneath. Elegant, alien, breathtakingly composed. She walked toward him, each step measured and impossibly graceful. The scent of ozone and crushed blossoms filled the air. When she stopped before him, Adrian realized she was taller than him. Her gaze met his, not for 3 seconds, but 10. Maybe more. "You speak of cooperation," she said quietly. "Yet your first act was to bleed before me." She glanced at the small wound on his neck, where he'd ripped off the translator. For an instant, her eyes softened, not with pity, but with recognition. Then she turned away, her tone cool again. "The court will deliberate on your words, human," she said. "But until then, you remain under my personal custody." Every noble in the hall went still. The declaration was political suicide. An empress claiming a human envoy as a ward meant direct defiance of her counsel. Adrian didn't know that yet. He only knew one thing. The moment her eyes met his, every rule he'd been taught about this mission stopped mattering. And deep inside, he felt it, the beginning of something dangerous. The corridors of the royal citadel were alive, not with sound, but with a pulsing hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Streams of blue light ran beneath the glass floor, moving like veins through a body. Captain Adrian Holt walked between 2 alien guards, their weapons humming softly, the air around them heavy with electric charge. He wasn't being taken to a cell. That much he could tell. The halls curved upward into a private tower that overlooked the city, a place only royalty were allowed to step. The irony burned in his chest. The custody the Empress had spoken of was no arrest. It was something stranger. At the top, the guards stopped. A translucent barrier scanned his body, flickered, then dissolved. The doors ahead opened silently. Inside, the chamber was vast, warm, and filled with soft light. Curtains of energy floated in the air like ribbons. A faint breeze carried the scent of metal and rain. In the center, standing by an arched window, was Empress Sarilith. She was no longer wearing her ceremonial crown. Her armor had been replaced by a thin, luminescent robe that clung to her shape like liquid light. Yet even stripped of symbols, she radiated more authority than anyone he'd ever met. Adrian paused at the doorway. "If this is what you call custody," he said quietly, "I've been in worse prisons." A small, humorless smile crossed her lips. "You misunderstand, Captain. You are not my prisoner." She turned toward him, golden eyes steady. "You are my property, at least for now." He didn't flinch, but she could see the flash of anger in his eyes. "Earth doesn't recognize slavery," he said. "And yet you wear chains of your own," she countered softly. "Uniforms, orders, loyalty to men you've never met." He took a step forward. "That's duty, not slavery." "Is it?" she asked, her tone almost curious. "You obey without question. You bleed for their flags. And now you stand here, alone, unarmed, because your leaders sent you to face a throne they don't understand." He had no answer. She was right, and she knew it. She walked closer, her presence almost physical. The air seemed to tighten between them. "Do you know why I claimed you?" He shook his head. Her gaze softened, just slightly. "Because your translator failed." Adrian frowned. "That's your reason?" "No," she said quietly. "Because in that moment, you chose to bleed rather than stay silent. In my court, silence is survival. You defied that." She moved past him, her robe brushing against his sleeve. He felt the faint static where their skin nearly touched, the energy of two beings from different worlds, colliding in a single breath. "You spoke with honesty," she continued. "Something my nobles have forgotten. They twist words until truth drowns in it. I have ruled them for 2 centuries, Captain Holt, and yet I can't remember the last time someone looked me in the eye without fear." He turned to her. "You think I wasn't afraid?" She met his gaze again, and this time it wasn't cold. It was searching. "You were. But you spoke anyway." A long silence followed. The twin suns outside began to set, their light turning crimson through the windows. The citadel glowed against the darkening horizon, and for a moment, both of them seemed suspended between worlds. Ruler and soldier, predator and prey, equals in defiance. Finally, she spoke again, her tone quieter, almost fragile. "Tomorrow, the council will summon you. They'll want to dissect your purpose, your blood, your species. They'll want to decide whether humanity is a threat or a resource." "And you?" he asked. She hesitated, a rare crack in her control. "I haven't decided yet." Adrian exhaled, the weight of her words hitting him harder than any weapon could. "Then I'll convince you," he said. Her expression shifted, not amusement, not anger, but something closer to intrigue. "Be careful, Captain. In this court, conviction can be mistaken for seduction." She turned away, leaving him standing alone in the fading light. But as the energy curtains closed behind her, Adrian realized something he hadn't dared admit. He was already trapped. Not by walls or guards or orders, but by her. The Grand Council Hall was designed to make mortals feel small. The ceilings rose so high that clouds of glowing vapor drifted beneath the rafters. Rings of alien delegates sat in circular tiers, each one representing a different world within the Empire. Their skin tones shimmered under the radiant blue light, silver, violet, obsidian, all united by one emotion, disgust. At the center of the hall, standing on a transparent platform, was Adrian Holt. His wrists were cuffed by glowing restraints that hummed like wasps. He wasn't shackled for containment, it was theater. The Empire wanted to make a point. Humanity was on trial. At the far end sat Empress Sarilith, elevated on her throne. Her expression was unreadable, her crown once again in place. But her eyes, when they met his, flickered with something, a silent warning, or maybe protection. "Begin the proceedings," said the High Chancellor, his voice deep and venomous. He was tall, insectoid, his chitinous skin reflecting the chamber's light. "Human specimen, you were found on the front lines of the border war between your fleet and our patrols. You killed 12 soldiers before capture. State your designation and purpose." Adrian's voice was steady. "Captain Adrian Holt. United Earth Expeditionary Force. Purpose, survival." The hall murmured, a ripple of disapproval spreading through the delegates. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked. "You call that survival? You invaded our border space." Adrian tilted his head. "Your ships fired first." A sharp hiss cut through the air, the sound of 50 alien throats gasping in outrage. Sarilith didn't move, but Adrian saw the faintest twitch in her jaw, a micro-expression that said don't push too far. The Chancellor circled the platform like a predator. Your species breeds conflict. Every world you touch burns. Adrian's tone was calm but cold. Every world we touched fought back. We didn't start your wars, we ended them. Gasps again. The guards stepped forward, but Sarilith raised her hand slightly. The hall fell silent. Her voice was calm, but carried the force of command. The human will answer only what is asked, she said. We are not here to measure pride. Adrian looked at her, and for a second their eyes locked. There was no warmth this time, but there was something deeper, calculation. She was protecting him by appearing harsh. The Chancellor spread his wings slightly. Your Majesty, with respect, this creature is too dangerous. We should dissect it, extract its genetic data, and dispose of the rest. Humanity's aggression is well documented. This soldier's defiance only proves it. Sarilith rose from her throne slowly. You forget, Chancellor, that this soldier fought without enhancement. He stood against 12 of your own and lived. That does not make him dangerous. That makes him valuable. The room froze. Every delegate's eyes turned to her. It was an open challenge, and a dangerous one. Valuable? The Chancellor hissed. You speak as if you would keep him. Sarilith descended the dais, her robes flowing behind her like liquid gold. She stepped onto the transparent platform, standing just a few feet from Adrian. The guards hesitated, uncertain whether to stop her. He is the first of his kind to stand here, not as a corpse or a slave, she said. If the Empire's purpose is unity, then let it begin with understanding, not dissection. A murmur spread again, louder this time. Some agreed. Most didn't. But no one dared speak over her. The Chancellor leaned forward. And if your understanding corrupts our order? What then, Majesty? Sarilith's gaze hardened. Then perhaps our order deserves to break. The room fell into stunned silence. Adrian's pulse quickened. For a brief moment he saw it, not the cold empress, not the ruler defending her empire, but a woman daring her entire court to challenge her. Then she turned to him. Captain Holt, your custody will continue under my direct supervision until the council reconvenes. Any harm to you will be considered an act of treason. Do you understand? He nodded slowly. Yes, Your Majesty. As she passed him, her voice dropped just low enough for him to hear. You just made me your enemy in this room. Don't make me regret it. The guards released the restraints. The hall erupted in debate and shouting. But Adrian didn't hear any of it, because in that moment, he understood something dangerous. The Empress hadn't saved him out of mercy. She'd saved him because, somehow, his existence now meant more to her than the approval of her entire empire. The Empress's private chambers were built from living crystal, walls pulsing faintly with bioluminescent veins that mimicked a heartbeat. Outside, 2 suns bled their light across the alien capital, painting the skyline gold and crimson. Inside, silence ruled. Sarilith stood before the wide mirror of her quarters, her crown removed, her reflection trembling with exhaustion she would never show in public. Her robe, a shimmering weave of royal purple and light thread, hung loose over her shoulders. For the first time in years, she looked less like a ruler, and more like a prisoner of her own throne. A hiss from the doorway broke the silence. The High Chancellor entered without waiting for permission. His armor gleamed like obsidian glass, wings half folded in agitation. You defied protocol, he said, voice low but venomous. In front of every delegate. Sarilith didn't turn. Protocol serves the Empire. I serve something greater. He clicked his mandibles sharply. Greater than the Empire? Her gaze flicked to him through the mirror. Truth. The Chancellor stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Truth is what keeps your crown on your head. And right now that truth is fracturing. The Council believes you're compromised, emotionally compromised, by that human. Sarilith finally turned to face him. You mean the soldier who risked his life against 12 of your elites? The one you'd rather dissect than understand. He slammed his clawed hand against the wall. The crystal pulsed angrily in response. He's a weapon, not a diplomat. A human. Their species spread like infection, conquering, corrupting. And now you protect one, at the cost of your authority. Sarilith walked past him, unafraid, her tone quiet but sharp enough to cut steel. You speak of infection while your council rots from arrogance. The Chancellor bared his fangs slightly. Your father would have executed him. She stopped. That one hit deep. For a heartbeat, she didn't move, then turned her head slowly, her eyes burning. My father built an empire of fear. I intend to build one that survives him. Before he could reply, the door behind him opened. 2 guards escorted Adrian Holt into the room. His hands were free now, though guarded by plasma spears on both sides. His clothes were torn from his capture, still smeared with alien dust and dried blood. The Chancellor hissed. "He doesn't belong here." Sarilith gestured calmly. "Leave us." "Majesty." That was not a request. Reluctantly, the Chancellor withdrew, his glare lingering on Adrian. "This decision will destroy you," he whispered as he exited. When the doors sealed shut, silence returned. Adrian stood stiffly, scanning the chamber. "You risked a lot back there," he said finally. Sarilith moved toward the window, looking out at the twin suns. "Risk is a language rulers speak fluently. The difference is, I usually survive it." Adrian frowned. "Why save me at all? You could have let them kill me and strengthened your rule. Instead, you stood against them for me." She looked over her shoulder. "You think this is about mercy?" He didn't answer. Sarilith approached, stopping a few feet away. The soft glow from the crystal walls painted her skin in hues of violet and gold. Her voice dropped, colder now. "The Council thinks you're dangerous because they fear what they don't understand. I think you're dangerous because you don't." Adrian tilted his head slightly. "Meaning?" She stepped closer, eyes fixed on his. "You walked into a hall of enemies and challenged them without fear. You spoke to me like an equal, a human talking to an empress of 12 worlds. Either you're a fool, or something far rarer." "Which one do you think I am?" he asked quietly. Her lips curved, not a smile, something darker. "I haven't decided yet." The tension between them thickened, not romantic yet, but alive, volatile, electric. Finally, she turned away. "You'll remain under palace watch. The guards answer to me alone. Speak to no one and don't wander. If they smell weakness, they'll kill you before sunrise." Adrian crossed his arms. "You're protecting me, or keeping me on a leash?" She glanced back with a faint, knowing smirk. Sometimes the leash is the only thing keeping the beast alive. As she walked toward the exit, Adrian called out, "You really think your people will follow you after this?" Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. "No, but I don't need them to follow me. I need them to remember me." The doors sealed behind her, leaving Adrian standing in the shimmering quiet, surrounded by living crystal that pulsed like a heartbeat. He looked toward the window where the suns were setting, and whispered to himself, "Something tells me I'm not the one who's trapped here." Silence hung like smoke between them. The chamber's tall windows caught the faint shimmer of the twin moons, painting Sarilith's face in fractured light. Adrian stood a few paces away, still catching the heat of her presence, her bioluminescent veins fading from gold to violet, the sign of control slipping back into place. "I dismissed the guards," she said finally. "If they find you here after curfew, they'll call it treason." Adrian smirked faintly. "Then I should make my treason count." Before she could reply, the palace lights dimmed, once, twice, a brief flicker that made the hair on his neck rise. The automated voice of the central AI chimed through the intercom. "Security breach. Sector 9. Intruder signatures detected." Sarilith's glow flared blue. "Sector 9, she whispered. "That's the western gallery, my route to the throne wing." Adrian was already moving, his instincts overriding protocol. "Stay behind me." He drew the plasma sidearm from his holster. The Weapon Earth command had marked non-combat only. The safety seals still hung on it. He broke them without hesitation. They reached the gallery within seconds. The vast corridor was a maze of glass pillars and mirrored walls, designed for ceremony, not defense. Reflections danced everywhere. Adrian scanned the arches, the moving light, the faint distortion of heat signatures behind the crystal lattice. "Show yourself," he barked in Varillian. A figure stepped from behind a column, cloaked, armored in matte black. Then another. Then 3 more. Silent. Coordinated. Sarilith's claws unsheathed with a hiss. "Assassins," she said quietly. "From the High Council." "Yeah," Adrian muttered. "They didn't come to negotiate." The first attacker moved like liquid shadow, sprinting, leaping, blades drawn. Adrian fired once. The bolt punched through glass, then armor, the body collapsing without a sound. The others advanced in a fan pattern, cutting him off from the Empress. He dove, rolled, fired again. 2 hits. A blade grazed his shoulder, hot blood soaking through the uniform. He ignored it. One of the assassins raised an electrostaff, striking down, but Sarilith was faster. Her hand caught the shaft mid-swing. She twisted, claws tearing through reinforced alloy. The weapon snapped like glass. "You think I need guards?" she hissed in her native tongue, eyes burning bright gold. The final assassin lunged behind her. Adrian saw the movement in the reflection first. He didn't think, didn't shout. He moved. His shoulders slammed into her side, pushing her out of the strike's path. The blade pierced his back, deep enough to drop him to one knee. He turned, grabbed the attacker's wrist, and snapped it with brutal precision. The body fell beside him. Silence again, but this time it was heavy, trembling, alive. Sarilith knelt, pulling him upright, her hands glowing faintly as she pressed against the wound. "You fool," she said. "You could have let me handle it." He looked at her, pale, half-smiling, blood at his lips. "And miss watching you tear through your own council's assassins?" "Never." Her hand trembled. "You were supposed to be my shield, not my martyr." "Same thing," he muttered. For a long moment, neither spoke. The twin moons outside glimmered through the shattered glass, reflecting their shapes, a human bleeding out, and a queen with power burning beneath her skin. Then Sarilith stood abruptly. "Get up," she said, voice low, command cutting through grief. "If they sent assassins tonight, the council will move by dawn. I need to know who gave the order." Adrian pushed himself up, wiped the blood from his mouth, and gave a grim nod. "Then we start with whoever wanted me dead too." Their eyes met, not as ruler and soldier anymore, but as two conspirators against an empire built on lies. Outside, the alarm klaxons fell silent. But deep beneath the palace, something else began to stir. The grand hall of verdicts was silent when Sarilith entered. No courtiers, no guards, just 12 counselors sitting like stone effigies beneath the massive sigil of the empire. The air reeked of perfume and power, both suffocating in their own way. Adrian followed 3 steps behind her. His uniform was cleaned but still torn at the shoulder, the wound freshly sealed with synth flesh. He moved like a predator, pretending to be calm. Every noble eye in the chamber followed him with quiet hatred. Counselor Varn, the oldest, rose slowly. "Your Majesty," he said, voice smooth as oil, "we mourn the loss of 4 royal guards during last night's disturbance." Sarilith didn't blink. "You mean your assassins?" Gasps rippled through the hall. Varn's smile didn't falter. "Unfounded claims will only." Adrian's voice cut through the echo. "I dragged one of their bodies from the floor. Same insignia you're wearing under that robe." Half the council stiffened. The other half avoided looking at each other. Sarilith stepped closer to the dais, her gold eyes burning like suns through mist. "You sent blades into my chambers," she said. "You wanted me dead before I could sign the trade accord with Earth. You wanted the throne to crumble under mysterious tragedy." The counselor's mouth opened, but she didn't let him speak. "Instead," she continued, "your assassins died in my hall. One of them lived long enough to say a name before his lungs filled with blood." The room froze. Adrian saw it, the smallest twitch in Varn's jaw. A tell that no trained diplomat should ever show. Sarilith leaned forward, her voice turning sharp enough to cut the air. "Varn," she said. "You ordered it. Say it." The old alien finally smiled, the kind of smile only men with no way out can afford. "I serve the Empire," he said. "And you, Majesty, you are what's killing it." Adrian's hand went for his sidearm. Sarilith raised her clawed hand and stopped him with a flick of her wrist. "Let him talk," she said softly. Varn rose to full height. "We built this empire to keep our kind pure, untouchable. You sit beside a human, a soldier who speaks our tongue, who bleeds on our floors, who whispers to you in the dark halls. What do you think that looks like to your people?" The insult wasn't subtle. The entire council leaned forward, watching, waiting. Sarilith stepped down from her throne, closing the space until she stood inches from Varn. Her glow burned crimson now, the color of warning. "What it looks like," she said slowly, "is loyalty, something this council stopped understanding generations ago." Then, without breaking eye contact, she turned toward the guards posted by the door. "Remove him." 2 armored soldiers stepped forward. Varn didn't resist, he just laughed, the sound echoing like cracking glass. "You think this ends with me, Majesty? You've already doomed yourself. The people won't follow a queen who kneels for a human." Sarilith's reply was quiet, but every word hit like a blade. "Then I'll teach them to kneel for no one." The guards dragged him away. His laughter faded down the corridor. Silence. Adrian stepped up beside her, his voice low enough for her alone. "You just declared civil war." She turned to face him, the glow in her skin fading from red to a steady gold. "No," she said. "They did the moment they aimed their blades at my back." He looked at her for a long second. And in that moment, he realized, she wasn't just fighting for a crown anymore. She was fighting to rewrite an empire. From somewhere deep in the palace, a low tremor rolled through the floor, engines awakening, the fleet preparing for movement. Sarilith didn't flinch. She simply whispered, 3 hours until the blockade tightens. If we're going to survive this, Adrian, it starts now. And without another word, she walked out, the empress of a collapsing empire, her human shadow following close behind. The war room was buried deep beneath the citadel. No light, no windows, only holographic stars orbiting above a cold metal table. The hum of engines shook the floor, faint but constant. Outside, the fleet was preparing for war. Inside, the Empress was preparing for survival. Sarilith stood at the head of the table, a projection of the outer systems glowing in front of her. Dozens of red markers surrounded their homeworld like tightening claws. Each one represented a fleet loyal to the High Council, her enemies now. Adrian walked in without the ceremonial escort. He tossed the data core onto the table. "Recon drones confirm it," he said. Varn wasn't bluffing. Half the border fleets are already mobilizing. They're calling it a purification campaign. Their first target is you. Sarilith's jaw tightened. Her gold markings dimmed slightly, the alien equivalent of a sigh. "My own fleet's turning on me. Centuries of control undone in a single night." Adrian stepped closer. "You still have forces on your side. The Silver Guard, the House of Dareth, and 3 human outposts who'd back you if you promise autonomy." Her eyes snapped toward him. "Autonomy? You think I can hold this empire together by giving pieces of it away?" Adrian didn't blink. "If you don't, there won't be an empire left to hold." The room fell silent. The hologram flickered, stars shifting, red markers moving closer to the capital. Finally, she spoke. "You think like a soldier. I think like a sovereign. The difference is that when I make a mistake, millions die." He shot back, "And when you hesitate, millions already start dying." For a heartbeat, neither moved. The tension between them was electric, not romantic, not yet, but the kind that happens when 2 predators realize they need each other to live. Sarilith exhaled, her tone softer but heavy with exhaustion. "When I took the throne, I believed ruling meant command. Now I see it means compromise." Adrian smirked faintly. "Then compromise with me. Let me lead the human battalions. You need someone who understands ground combat, not just politics." She studied him, the human who had saved her life, insulted her counsel, and now dared to speak to her like an equal. Then she nodded once. "You'll have command. But hear me clearly, Adrian Vale. If you ever turn those soldiers against my people, I will end you myself." He smiled without humor. "Fair enough. Just make sure your people don't shoot me first." A sound interrupted them, a soft chime from the central console. Sarilith touched the hologram, and a figure appeared. Commander Kareth, leader of the Silver Guard. His image flickered with static. "Majesty," he said, "we've detected multiple warp signatures inbound to the capital. Unidentified. Fast. Too fast." Adrian's instincts kicked in. "Drop shields around the citadel now. They'll target power relays first." But Kareth hesitated. "If we drop shields, the city is exposed." "Do it," Sarilith ordered. The image cut. The floor trembled. A second later, the sky above the palace ignited in a silent explosion visible through the hollow feed, enemy ships descending in formation. Sarilith turned to Adrian, eyes blazing. "They've come for the throne." He checked his rifle. "Then we make sure they choke on it." The lights flickered red as alarms blared across the war room. Outside, the first blasts of orbital fire began to hammer the capital's upper tiers. Sarilith raised her wrist communicator, voice steel cold. "All loyal fleets, initiate protocol eclipse. Defensive perimeter around the citadel. No mercy for traitors." Her command echoed through the chamber like a sentence written in fire. Then she looked at Adrian, for the first time, not as a soldier or an outsider, but as her last line of defense. "From this moment," she said, "you're not just fighting for your people. You're fighting for mine." He nodded. "Then let's make sure both survive." Outside, the Empire's own sky began to fall, the citadel burned. Whole towers collapsed in silence before the shockwaves reached the ground. Plasma fire rained from orbit, turning the white marble of the capital into molten rivers. Every corridor shook as Sarilith and Adrian fought their way through the chaos, not retreating, but heading deeper underground toward the throne core. The Silver Guard was nearly gone. Smoke, blood, and the acrid scent of burned ozone filled the air. Adrian's armor was cracked, his left arm bleeding through the plates, but his grip on the pulse rifle never loosened. Sarilith stumbled once. He caught her. Their eyes met for half a second, no words, just shared exhaustion and defiance. Then they kept moving. "Status?" she demanded through the comm. A panicked voice answered, Council fleet breached orbit. Citadel shields failing. The last defense lines are collapsing. Adrian looked at her. If we don't trigger the core purge now, they'll take the throne alive. Her jaw clenched. If we trigger it now, every loyal soldier still fighting dies with it. Better that than seeing your empire enslaved by the ones who betrayed you. A beam tore through the ceiling, incinerating the hall behind them. The blast threw them both to the ground. When the smoke cleared, only two shapes remained moving, Sarilith crawling toward the control dais, and Adrian pulling her up before she fell into the collapsing floor. The throne core chamber finally came into view, a vast room lit by swirling streams of golden energy. In its center, a crystalline throne floated above the reactor. The Empire's neural matrix, the heart of her power, the connection to every world, every ship. Sarilith's voice trembled. If I destroy it, everything built over 10,000 years disappears. Billions will be free, but directionless. Adrian answered quietly, then maybe it's time they learned to live without chains. Before she could reply, the doors burst open. Lord Varn, bloodstained, half his face scorched, staggered in with a dozen armored guards. His smirk was cold. You could have ruled eternity, Sarilith. Instead, you chose the human. Adrian aimed his rifle. Bad choice of last words. Varn sneered. You think this is love? You're just her pet. Her experiment. Adrian fired. 3 guards dropped. Plasma bolts ripped through the air. One hit Adrian square in the chest. He fell to his knees, armor sparking, but managed to shoot Varn in the throat before collapsing. Sarilith screamed, a sound not meant for human ears. Her body glowed with raw energy as she stepped onto the throne platform. Adrian, he could barely raise his head. Do it. Her hands hovered over the controls. If I do this, everything dies. He looked up at her, blood in his mouth but eyes steady. Then make it mean something. She closed her eyes. The room filled with light, bright enough to erase shape, sound, everything. A deep hum shook the world. The Citadel's reactors detonated in sequence, a chain reaction that ripped through the capital and reached orbit. From space, it looked like the planet's heart had burst into gold fire. When the light faded, only silence remained. Hours later, among the drifting ruins, a single emergency pod blinked to life. Inside, Adrian gasped awake, barely alive. His comm crackled once. A faint, familiar voice whispered through static. Human live. Rebuild. Then silence. He looked out the shattered viewport. The planet below was gone, a glowing scar where an empire once stood. He whispered to no one, you didn't die for nothing. The camera would pull back, the wreckage of fleets drifting through the stars, a single human pod escaping into the void, carrying the last echo of an alien empress and the empire that ended with her choice.